It's November of 2021 and I'm sat in my room in front of my laptop. The sun is just starting to rise outside and it's the weekend, meaning most people are spending time outside with their friends, but I'm sat looking out of the window with a sullen look on my face, wondering how I can make this weekend slightly less miserable and lonely than the last. I'm 21 years old and I've been living in my mum's house for the last 4 months in the town I grew up in after living abroad for 2 years. But since moving back, I haven't made any friends and I haven't reached out to the friends who I grew up with, mainly because we drifted apart and I just feel I'm in a different stage of life now. So I decide to distract myself from my loneliness by opening up my laptop to watch something on YouTube. But then the doorbell rings. So I close my laptop, quickly check the time to see it's 10 AM and rush downstairs half naked because I haven't got dressed yet to open the door. And I peek around the corner of the window before I open the door to see who's there, but I can't see anyone. So I open the door and I'm shocked at what I see. A huge cardboard box right by the doorstep. So I lean down to pick it up and it turns into a leg day at the gym because I have to deadlift this box because it's so heavy in order to carry it into the living room. And as I struggle to carry it into the house, I wave goodbye to the delivery driver as he drives past in his van and I rush into the kitchen to grab a pair of scissors. So I sit there inspecting what could be inside of the box and I run the scissors down the side of it to open it up and I'm instantly hit with a smell from heaven. Fresh, crispy books. All 15 of them. Then it hits me. This wasn't a gift from the library gods because 2 weeks prior I had spent £100 on ordering 15 brand new Russian literature books with the plan I would fill my miserably lonely weekends with reading. A fit-in replacement, I thought. So I'm flicking through the books in my living room with a huge dopamine-fueled smile on my face, but then the door knocks again. So I walk to the door like a psychopathic book fiend because I'm still half naked holding a pair of scissors in my hand until I put them down, open the door, and I'm greeted by my Auntie Julie and Uncle Darren. I'll guess I'll have to save the reading for later, I think. So I come into the house and find out they're here because my Uncle Darren is a carpenter and he needs to help my mum with fixing something. So as they walk in and after a bit of small talk, they ask what's in the box and I instantly turn into a 5-year-old child, giddy and over the moon with what's inside. All 15 of my new friends and my ticket out of loneliness. But as I begin to show them what's inside the box, I start to prefer the fact I now have people to talk to rather than sitting alone in my room. So my Auntie Julie makes herself a cup of tea in the kitchen and my Uncle Darren goes out to the garage to start sawing wood and screwing it together. My Auntie Julie is the most spiritual person I know, and she's who got me into meditation when I was 16 and taught me pretty much everything I know about Hindu religion and philosophy. She's young beyond her years and her spiritual discipline is incredible, and she always gives you the feeling in conversation that she's 100% there with you, completely present. My Uncle Darren is the most comedic and wittiest person I know. He doesn't read a lot, but he could instantly tell you what classical musical piece is playing on the radio, whilst telling you how to fix anything that's broken and giving you a lecture on the history of England within 5 minutes. So after talking a bit with Julie, I go out into the garage to help Darren with his work, because after he suffered a heart attack a few years ago, he's not as mobile as he once was. So as I'm holding a piece of wood down for him while he saws it, we get into a conversation about how we both are. Standard conversation. But when Darren asks what's new with me, I start talking about the books because I realise quite quickly I don't have anything else new in my life worth talking about. Nothing else is really going on in my life, so I revive my excitement for the books and tell him how I plan to read all 15 of them before the end of the year. But my excitement is cut short by Darren's silence at what I'm saying. I thought he'd share my excitement because he loves collecting things himself, films, antiques, special edition books, but as I bring what I'm saying to a close, he continues sawing the wood, whilst looking down at his hands with a stern but regretful look on his face, as if he's preparing himself to deliver some bad news. So I finish what I'm saying and nervously wait for his response. And after 10 seconds of silently listening to what I've said, and as if Darren can tell I've been secluding myself for the last 4 months, he gradually looks up at me and in a stern but calm voice says, "Lewis, you do know your life isn't in these books. It's out there," as he points outside of the garage, and I didn't need him to say anything else. Message received. When I was 21 years old, I wasn't very engaged with life. Between the ages of 18 to 21, I travelled and lived abroad. But at 21, I returned home and quickly began to isolate myself from social invitations by spending my weekends alone in my room reading. But it wasn't until this conversation I had with my Uncle Darren that I realised I was trying to understand everything I could about life without having either foot planted in it. I was sat back, memorizing the words of what everyone else was saying and learning from their experiences without actively learning from my choices and path in life. I was scared to make a choice and embrace new experiences. So I relied on the lessons from other people to give me the feeling that I was progressing. And this experience allowed me to understand the following quote: "Beware of wisdom you didn't earn." I felt called to make this video because never before have so many teens been on the internet giving other people life advice about things they clearly haven't actualized through their own experience. Today, it's not uncommon to see a 16-year-old guru give other people life advice about how to get their stuff in order and level up. But you can tell their words are just the regurgitations of the other people they admire, with no nuanced thought or original perspectives of their own. If someone put a gun to my head at 16 and demanded I record myself on the internet and give life advice, I would have brushed my fringe to one side and said, "Yeah, alright mate, I'll do it, just let me play this game of FIFA and scroll through my crush's Instagram." I was clueless. But outside the realm of 16-year-old gurus, never before have we had such access to the thoughts, opinions and worldviews of other people. And the tricky thing is, if we're not careful, we'll distrust our own experiences and start to just follow what other people are telling us to do. Or from the other perspective, never before has it been so easy for us to sit back and get others to do the dirty work for us while we soak up all the lessons from their victories and failures without us feeling the need to take risks which could potentially lead us to arriving at this wisdom ourselves. Online, in videos or podcasts, we often hear people answer the question, what advice would you give to your younger self? In the hope someone younger than them will take that advice on board and avoid their mistakes. And I'm guilty because sometimes I've given this advice in the past. But when you absorb this type of advice, you miss out on the opportunity of arriving at your own wisdom. As the Russian author Fyodor Dostoevsky said, to go wrong in one's own way is better than to go right in someone else's. In the first case, you are a man. In the second, you're no better than a bird. The reason this is important is because in order to have any credibility for what you're saying, you need to have skin in the game. You need experiences to match your life wisdom. Granted, the thought of not getting your first relationship right, failing your first business, or studying the wrong degree after 3 years isn't fun. But through doing so, you'll learn valuable lessons that you've actualized through your own experience rather than just listening to what other people have said. One of the best pieces of advice I ever got for becoming a writer was from Ryan Holiday, but it also applies to life in general. In order to be a great writer, live an interesting life. In a general sense, I would say, in order to live a great life, live. Don't sit back trying to understand everything through books and what other people were saying without actively engaging in life yourself. Go out there. Put your ass on the line, approach the stranger, take that job, book that flight, tell that person what they really mean to you. It's great to read, learn and absorb the lessons from other people. I still do so every day and it's a huge part of my life. But this isn't my whole life. I still take risks, I still challenge myself to come up with my own conclusions rather than instantly asking someone else what they think. And now what's different from my 21-year-old self is whenever I learn something, I actively try and use it in my life so I can actualize it through my experience. Lastly, here's an analogy to illustrate this idea. When you rely on other people's wisdom, it's like you're carrying around with you a huge treasure chest with precious jewels and gems inside. But you cannot access those jewels and gems because you don't have the key. Even though you know what's inside the chest, it remains forever locked. However, when you arrive at your own wisdom, you give yourself the key to unlock the chest and use the gems and jewels in whichever way you choose. So the next time you find your life beginning to get a little bit dull, heavy and dissociative, with concept upon concept and quote upon quote whirling around in your head, discard your books. Turn off the podcasts, switch off the advice from other people and return to yourself by plunging into life. Because when you get the message, hang up the phone.